The live-action Legend of Zelda movie is exciting news for longtime fans of the Nintendo games, but the film will need to break the source material's timeline in order to succeed. Let me know in the comments section what you think of a live-action Legend of Zelda movie, and what story should they tell. But before Link gets his angles all wrong trying to dive into a river...
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Ooh, ouch. I'd like to say hello guys and gals, I'm Nick, and welcome to 30's Feedback. So, details of the upcoming movie are sparse, but there's a lot of pressure for the live-action Legend of Zelda to get things right. This is why fancasts, like those calling for Tom Holland to be Legend of Zelda's lead, tend to be so divisive. It's also why there are concerns that certain aspects of the Nintendo games won't translate well to live action, a problem that many video game shows and movies need to overcome. There's also a question of which game the Legend of Zelda movie will adapt, as there are a whopping 29 installments in total. While some of these are remakes of previous chapters, many feature their own unique storylines and quests. It's hard to say which will appear in the Legend of Zelda movie, but it will need to choose a good starting point if it hopes to spawn a franchise. That's why the initial film may need to break the Legend of Zelda's timeline, even if it's not what fans will expect. Although we definitely don't want a timeline similar to that of Back to the Future.
It will be the future of this reality, in which Biff is corrupt and powerful and married to your mother.
Looking at the Legend of Zelda games in chronological order, the first game is Skyward Sword, which sets up a young Link's origin story and lays the foundation for future games in the franchise. For this reason, Skyward Sword seems like the obvious choice for a live-action Legend of Zelda movie to adapt. However, this isn't necessarily the best approach for Sony and Nintendo to take. While Skyward Sword is undoubtedly a great game, it's far from the best entry point into the Legend of Zelda, even if it is a prequel that starts at the beginning of Link's story. For one, since Skyward Sword came out in 2011 after many other Zelda games already existed, it expects players to know the lore of its world even though it comes before Link's other adventures. There are ways a movie could smooth this over, but it will be harder to throw general audiences into Skyward Sword than an adaptation of 1986's original The Legend of Zelda or one of its early sequels. Additionally, Skyward Sword isn't the game moviegoers are most likely to be acquainted with. Hits like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask or Breath of the Wild are far more familiar, and thus more likely to appeal to casual fans and general audiences. I remember Christmas 1998 when I opened up Ocarina of Time and played it for hours on end with my brother. Good times, good stuff. This was pretty much me on Christmas Day. The question of where Sony and Nintendo should start its live-action Legend of Zelda movie is an important one, and the answer isn't as simple as adapting one specific game. In fact, if the studio wants this movie to succeed, it shouldn't adapt a single game from the Legend of Zelda series at all. Instead, it should incorporate elements of multiple games into its story, presenting something that's fresh and unique but still appeals to die-hard fans. While certain Zelda games like Breath of the Wild are overwhelmingly popular, it's hard to say which would fare best as an opening entry. Fans will have differing opinions about which Zelda game should be adapted first, but breaking the timeline is more appealing for everyone. The Super Mario Bros. Movie blended multiple games into its story, and it worked well for the billion-dollar hit. The film drew Nintendo players and newcomers alike, something the live-action Legend of Zelda also needs to accomplish. Crafting a more unique plot that's rich with game lore and references is the most promising way to do this. After that story pulls moviegoers in, the franchise can adapt more of its lineup more closely. I'd really like to see Ganon in the live action as the main antagonist, but it really does need a good plot, because if it doesn't... Whether Nintendo and Sony decide to start with an older Zelda game or mesh multiple installments together, they definitely shouldn't use the chronological timeline to kick off the live-action movie. Skyward Sword can't be the first game adapted, but later films can use its story to expand the franchise. Since Skyward Sword is easier to appreciate after becoming familiar with other Zelda releases, the same is likely to be true for its film adaptation. As such, The Legend of Zelda should wait on that front. Fortunately, it has plenty of other installments to take advantage of in the meantime. It does worry me that there's a plethora of choice for the first film, which could almost cause a problem.
There's too many choices, and we're inventing new choices and solving problems nobody has.